I'm talking anyway, aren't I? There was a question that came up in the break, what about dried fruits? Okay, what would be your intrinsic feeling about dried fruits? The thing is all you've done is you have removed the liquid. You still have the whole food. It's preserved in a fairly natural way. And dried fruits, especially when you can't obtain the whole fruit because it's out of season, a dried fruit is an appropriate alternative. The problem with dried fruit is because it's smaller, you tend to eat more of it. You might eat, 2 or 3 peaches, which would probably be okay. Pears, I mean, you could eat 5, 6, 7 halves of pears. You would probably never consume the whole thing. So it's about limiting it. Figure out how much you would normally eat and then just eat that amount in dried. And when you can't obtain the natural, fruit, I mean, if fruit is in season, you have pears, why would you eat a dried pear? But when it's not, in the winter and in the spring, it's a very appropriate alternative. It has everything in it. Nothing's gone except the water. Now, it depends on how you've done it. We dehydrate our pears ourselves, so we know where they came from and we know what's on them, which is nothing. We slice the pears, dip them a little bit in lemon juice because that vitamin C will keep them from browning. It doesn't affect the end result. Just aesthetically, they look nice, but there's no difference in the quality. And then we just dehydrate them ourselves. So it also depends on where you obtained your dry fruit from. Does that answer your question? Yes.
How serious is that sulfur?
Sulfur is a problem because for apricots you'll have sulfur used in the processing, and it would probably be best to just, they sulfur them so that they keep that color. The unsulfured apricots always look really brown and aesthetically unpleasing. But if you can just pretend like you're eating in the dark, they taste better. It's probably, it's clearly better to not use the sulfured apricots. Okay, we're going to talk about achieving and maintaining a healthy weight. Overweight, the problem. Each year, more than 400,000 people die prematurely due to excess fat. 400,000. That's more people than die from lung cancer, by the way. In the US, 2 out of 3 adults, 62% exceed the healthy weight standard. Now, is this a reversing trend?
Yeah, to the worse.
Yeah, it's not a reversing trend. It's a year. The trend is continuing to worsen to the extent that is purely, absolutely, completely epidemic. To the point that 15 years from now, obesity is going to be the most expensive, overbearing health problem that this country addresses. It will outweigh everything else put together. It's increased by 74% since 1991, and this is defined by BMI of greater than 30. The current trend shows a significant increase in both adults and children, and especially in children. You can go to playgrounds, and when I was a kid, the one obese kid in our class got picked on because there was only one of them. And now the skinny kid gets picked on because he's the only one. Excess weight increases the risk and that happened in 1 generation, 2 generations. It increases your risk for heart disease, stroke, diabetes, osteoarthritis, certain cancers. Why osteoarthritis? What is osteoarthritis? Use and abuse. It's an arthritis of use and abuse. So if you have osteoarthritis of your knee, and knee replacements are very common. If you have arthritis and it's osteoarthritis, osteoarthritis is a disease that isn't inflammatory. It's not like rheumatoid arthritis or the other inflammatory arthritides. It's osteoarthritis, which is use and abuse. How do you abuse your knees? You can abuse them by playing football. That's abuse. You can abuse them by carrying, how about if you carried an 85-pound backpack all day long, every day? Would that abuse your knees? Okay, how about if you just put an extra 100 pounds of weight on? Would that abuse your knees? Yeah, that's why they get osteoarthritis. Early death, and it's pretty profoundly early, substantially reduced quality of life. The good news about weight, if you need to lose weight, you've seen this slide before, even a loss of 10 to 15 pounds can make a big improvement to your health. This is important. If you can't get to ideal body weight, get fit. It improves your blood level of sugar, of fat, improves your blood pressure, and significantly decreases your health risk by just losing 10 to 15 pounds. For young adult, the weight at which you look. What is healthy weight? That's an interesting thing because we live in a media which defines for you what healthy weight is, right? Mm-hmm. This is what healthy weight. For young adults, it's the weight at which you look and feel your best. There's no definition of BMI or anything. It's the weight at which you look and feel the best. For athletes, it's the weight at which you perform your best. If you're a sumo wrestler, you get the message. For everyone, the range of weights for a given height that corresponds to the lowest rate of morbidity and mortality. That's really the bottom line. What weight, based upon your height and bone structure, what weight would allow you to live the longest and have the least amount of illness? That is what your healthy weight is. So it's not a chart. This is BMI, and you notice that this thing at 21.9, you know, at the 22, you know, we said that BMI of less than 25 is ideal, but actually 22 is where it's most ideal. And the reason for that is this chart. Because at 22, the overweight risk of the overall risk of death, at 22, the risk starts going from baseline.
Do you believe in a BMI separate for men and women?
Yes. Yeah. The question was, should BMIs be different for men and women? And there should be some variation. The chart should be different. Yes.
Some people use the same chart.
Yeah, they should be different.
Yeah.
But, you know, when a person is morbidly obese, you don't need a BMI.
All right, it's right there.
You know, I don't really like to stress BMI much, but it kind of gets people in the ballpark. What it usually does, it's kind of like alcoholics. And I don't like to refer to that really, but, you know, the first step in overcoming alcoholism is admitting that you're an alcoholic. So the first step often in getting healthy is admitting you're unhealthy. The first step in losing weight is recognizing you have too much weight. And the BMI is a tool. It's only a tool. Because some people say, I'm fine, I'm healthy. Well, your BMI is 29. You know, that, and let me show you some statistics. Based upon your BMI of 29, let's look at it right here. Here's 29 right here. Okay, your risk of premature death is 40% greater than if your BMI was 22. Now, are you healthy? Do you think a BMI of 29 is a good thing? No. And see, before they thought, well, I'm fine, I'm normal. I'm going to probably die like everybody else at the same time. No, you're going to die 40% sooner. Or not 40% sooner, but your risk of dying is 40% greater. Your relative risk. This is actually women, by the way, and that's men. So that answered your question. You'll notice what men, look here, men start at a higher BMI. And so the charts are different for men and women as far as relative risk. This is underweight, normal weight. We've been over this. Overweight is greater than 25, obese 30, very obese or morbidly obese. You can call it whatever you want. A BMI greater than 40. This is the percent of the population. 40%, and this is going down, and this is going up. This is January 2003. I can guarantee you these numbers are radically different from 2003. Radically different. Not a little. Big. You've seen this chart. This basically tells you where your BMI is. This is your BMI and life expectancy. And this is a BMI of 24. It would actually even be better. This is men, and at 24 is when that curve starts going up. For women, it starts going up at 22. And look at this BMI of greater than 45. Your life expectancy is 67 years. Your life expectancy up here is 78 years. That puts it in real numbers. This is on average. If your BMI is 45, on average, you're going to live to be 67. What is the average American living to right now? 78. It's actually 78.3. So if you're dying at 67, and this number is probably even getting worse, you know, you can show them in real numbers. This is how long you can expect to live based upon your BMI. Women with a BMI of 23 to 25 live the longest. A 30-year-old female with a BMI of 38 will lose 4 years from her life. The same woman with a BMI of 45 will lose 9 years. Why do they die? What diseases do they get? How about all of them? How about all of them? That's the easiest thing. They clearly get diabetes. They clearly get high diabetes at a much higher rate. But the answer is they get all of the diseases. When God talks about none of these diseases, you know, the flip side of that is all of these diseases. Here's weight and prevalence of diabetes. The prevalence of diabetes is 4.1%. 4.1% of the population at this. And I assume this is talking about type 2 diabetes. If it's dumping in everybody with diabetes, you'll have type 1s dumped into all of these categories. Type 1, as you know, is juvenile onset diabetes. It's failure of the pancreas to produce insulin. We can talk at some point of the potential causes of why that's there, but it's there, and they're not producing insulin, and they need insulin. Type 2 diabetes is a disease of Western lifestyle choices. Also called adult onset diabetes. It's not a correct term because we now see type 2 diabetics that aren't adults. They're children. Isn't that sad? I mean, that's terrible. That's sick. What kind of society would do that to our children?
Oh, but you can't deny all those good.
Yeah, Krispy Kremes. We could put cyanide in their water and we'd get thrown in jail, but they can. This is weight and prevalence of hypertension. This is the percentage of people with hypertension when they're normal BMI. And this is what it is when they're very obese. More than half of the population have hypertension. This is weight and prevalence of high cholesterol. Remember, we asked you, why did they die early? And you said diabetes. No, that's the right answer. The more correct answers we're seeing is all of these diseases. They get all of them. And honestly, if a person with a BMI of 45 lives to be 67, they're lucky. This is weight and prevalence of arthritis, and this is not talking about the inflammatory arthritides. This is the osteoarthritis, and that's just use and abuse. You add more weight to the joints, and you're going to tear down the cartilage and eventually start wearing bone on bone. This is weight and prevalence of fair or poor health. Isn't this interesting? This is as judged by the individual themselves. If is asked, you know, how is your health? And if they check fair or poor, where if the people with normal, about 12% of the population, there's some people that come in and they'll just always say that because they're just naturally negative. But look at this. More than a third of the people who are very obese say that they have fair or poor health. This is what it costs us to have obese people in the workforce. This is, I think this was done by Kaiser. These are the annual median medical charges based upon people's BMI. If their BMI is greater than 40, their annual cost for them, and that actually, that's a pretty good cost. Those costs, this is 2003, that was 9 years ago. My medical insurance for my family, and we buy it through the corporation, but it was around $550 a month, and 3 months ago they raised it to $1,720.
Wow.
A month.
Wow.
A month. Now, I went, Danny Kwan, who used to be HR director at Amazing Facts, he's now our executive director, and so he knows how to, he found a broker, and I got Anthem Blue Cross, and we're now paying $723. But $723 times 12, now these are individuals, and I'm doing a family of 5, but I can tell you these numbers are profoundly larger than they were in 2003. This number is well over $10,000 now. But just relatively looking at this, BMI of 35, 30, look at this number, BMI of 30, overweight, but look at this, a healthy individual, 2,200. Underweight, we talked about this, and that's probably related to the people who have low BMIs are often those people who have chronic diseases. They're the people who have cancer, who are eating disorder individuals, people just have, you know, malabsorption syndrome, some reason for being low BMI. So they do have higher medical costs because of that. But obese people are costing the workforce, and therefore us, we all get to pay it, more and more and more and more, and we're getting more and more and more of us. And at what point in time do we say we can't pay this anymore? It'll bankrupt us. Waist girth measures the intra-abdominal fat, which is the most dangerous kind of fat. The waist girth is a better risk indicator than BMI alone. Okay? You measure your waist at the level of the navel. You pull the tape firm but not tight. Don't cheat. You know, you're going to want to. Relax. Don't suck it in, guys. Don't, you know, just relax. You want to know the real, and you want to compare results to norm. This is waist girth, relative risk of cardiovascular disease. This is less than 35 inches, and this is also broken down for men and women. This is men, and this is a waist girth less than 35. Relative risk is 1. If you're 39 inches, and that's not much more, your risk for coronary heart disease went up 2.4 times. The intra-abdominal fat, especially for men, also for women, but especially for men, the intra-abdominal fat is the most dangerous predictor, and it's the most dangerous form of the fat. This is for women. Oops. This is women. Look at that. It's even worse than men. And you notice that this number is 33. For men, it was 35.
How about that liposuction?
Sorry?
How about the liposuction?
About liposuction. Liposuction does nothing but increase your risk of dying because people die during the procedure.
Wow.
It does not suck out the intra-abdominal fat because you do not violate the peritoneum. You're sucking out the fat that's subcutaneous. Don't we live in a terrible society that you could actually, people want to do that and they spend thousands of dollars to do it to increase the risk when we have the simple tools that will give them that and give it to them in a more natural way. We can shed those pounds, you know, better, faster, and the end result is so much superior. The trends in eating practices in the last 19 years. This is really interesting. This is portion size and energy take has significantly increased. Soft drinks, 49 calories. Salty snacks, 93 calories. French fries, hamburgers, Mexican dishes. More meals are eaten out of home. Look at this. 35% of the calories come from fast foods and restaurant meals now. More than a third of all the calories come from fast food, typically fast food or other kind of restaurants. More than a third of the calories in America. Now, was that true 100 years ago? Fast food wasn't, I mean, there wasn't even a term anybody understood what it meant. Snack calories have increased by 73%. About 20% of all calories now come from snack foods. A fifth of all calories are now coming from snack foods. Should you eat snacks? Should you eat snacks? I like the first answer. No, there's really no need for eating snacks. And we'll go into that as we go into healthy living. But 20% of all calories, and those snacks are predominantly, almost all of them, processed fast food products. Profoundly unhealthy, high in those things that we've talked about, trans fats, calorically dense foods, very ugly for you, some of the worst foods that any human could consume. You could probably present these to a rat and they would probably be smart enough not to eat them. I don't think that's true. I think they eat them, but makes an interesting mental image. Nutrient intake and weight gain over 10 years. This is low intake and high intake based upon the quintiles This is the 5th quintile, and this is the 1st quintile for each one of these products. This is low intake. This is high intake of fiber. This is low intake. This is high intake. Look at this. High intake. That's because, but fat has a little bit. This is low intake of carbs, high intake. Low intake of protein, high intake. What can you glean from this? What's the most profound difference? Fiber. Which of those doesn't seem to have much of an impact? Fat, carbohydrate, not much. Protein, a bit more. But this is low intake of fat, and this is high intake, and this is nutrient intake and weight gain. So what is the most profound contributor that we can identify in this chart? Fiber. Now, would you have guessed that?
No.
No, you would not have guessed that intrinsically.
I thought it would be high intake of fat.
You would have thought it would be fat, right? But look what fiber does over 10 years. Now, there are other reasons. Where do you find fiber? Plant-based foods. So if you're getting high fiber, what are you eating? A lot of plant-based foods, right? You're eating healthier. So it's not just like you're eating Metamucil or psyllium seeds, or that's not what these people. It's talking about. If you're in a high fiber category, you're consuming higher amounts of plant-based foods.
The other research point for the class is when you look at quintiles, you understand what they're doing. They're just dividing intake into 5 groups. But if there's not a lot of variance in the population, it may not be showing much difference. In other words, the lower 5th in fat intake may still be eating 30 grams of fat, and the highest maybe 40 grams. So it may not be looking at 15% fat as compared to 40.
Yeah. And that shows you why you need to understand statistics if you're going to describe studies to people, because the statistics have to do with reality.
And probably the biggest reason to mention that is as we look at a lot of data in the class, sometimes it'll look like things are conflicting, but you often have to ask what is really being looked at, who is being studied, and what's really being compared. And we'll try to walk you through all that. I know a lot of it is coming kind of fast and furious.
How are you guys doing? I mean, is this information that can be valuable? Is this something you think you can actually take and use and deliver? I mean, these PowerPoint presentations are well done. They're well documented. That you may not completely agree intrinsically with some of the stuff, but remember, what does the front of the book say? An introduction. It's an introduction. This is not the end all. This is not the end. This is the beginning. You got to start somewhere. Study conclusions. A low fiber intake predicted weight gain and other cardiovascular disease risk factors more strongly than did saturated or total fat intake. High fiber diets may protect against obesity and cardiovascular disease by lowering insulin levels. The truth is, if you're eating a high fiber diet, you're eating a diet that's high in plant-based foods. And when you're eating a high amount of fiber, intrinsically, for all the reasons we've described, you eat fewer calories. Look at that group, those children that ate the steel-cut oats and the instant oats, they were obese to start with. They chose obese children to start with. And those obese children ate 53% fewer calories at supper when they had a great breakfast. And we don't even know if they had a great breakfast. We don't know what else they ate. We just know that the oatmeal was steel-cut oats, but everything else was the same. Practical steps to a healthy weight. Adopt a healthy lifestyle. Dieting doesn't work long-term, period.
Amen.
Period. You need a plan you can live with forever, for the rest of your life. Healthy eating habits, regular physical activity, good coping skills, and behavior change techniques. Diets don't work, period. Set an achievable goal. Start with a weight loss gain of only 5 to 10% of your weight. Start small. Don't say, well, I'm going to lose 50 pounds. Say, I'd like to shed 10 pounds, and give yourself a reasonable time. You didn't take 3 months to gain 50 pounds, but you want to get rid of it in 2 months. You know, we tell people, you know, a pragmatic approach, and we talked about this, I think, yesterday. How many calories do you burn by walking 1 mile? 100 calories. To lose a pound, you have to lose 3,500 calories. You would have to walk 35 miles if your goal was to burn 1 pound of fat. Nobody's going to walk 35 miles in a day, every day. Use a pragmatic approach. Honestly, walking 3 miles a day, like you're going to be doing, is going to alter your physiology if you haven't normally do it in ways that you will be so surprised. And what will happen is you go, I know you told me about this, and I can't believe it happened. And you'll come in and you'll say, wow. You'll say, wow. It really happened. And we go, yeah, we told you. Yeah, we knew it happened. Well, but it really happened. You know, yeah, we weren't lying. It will happen. This is sufficient to see healthy changes in lower blood pressure, lower triglycerides, higher HDL, and I don't really like this word insulin resistance, and I'm sure we'll be talking about insulin resistance and what that all means, lower blood sugar and insulin levels. Weekly weight loss goal, weight loss of 1/2 to 2 pounds a week. I don't like the 2 pounds a week. How many pounds, how many calorie deficit would you need to lose 2 pounds in a week? 7,000. 7,000. So how many calories is that deficit per day? 1,000. Because there's 7 days in a week. You would have to eat 1,000 fewer calories per day to lose 2 pounds in a week. That's kind of hard. That's kind of ugly. I don't like to tell people to do that. I like to say, I like the half. I like the half. If you lose 1/2 pound a week and you took 52 weeks and stayed on this program, how much weight would you lose? Come on, it's a math class. 26 pounds. Is that huge? Huge. That's huge. And I tell you what, if you can help somebody lose 26 pounds in a year, you have made a friend, not only a friend, a person who would die for you, almost. You've made a person that will be your friend forever. And because it took a year, you re-channeled their neural pathways so they now have a habit of being healthy. That's what works. Be active. If you can't get skinny, get fit. Get fit. It's more important to be fit than it is to be skinny. Okay? It's more important to be fit than be skinny. Now your brain may want not to receive that as an engram, but just keep repeating it. I don't like mantras, but you can kind of say this when you get up and looking in the mirror. It's better to be fit than skinny. Physical activity burns calories. It reduces your risk of diabetes, heart disease, and certain, again, most or if not all cancers. Physical activity counteracts many of the health problems linked to excess fat weight. These are calories burned in exercise. Sitting. Sitting is the standard. You're not burning any calories. You're burning calories. You're going to burn, you know, quite a bit of calories just sitting there today. But that's the baseline of 1. Calisthenics, 3 to 8 times. Climbing hills, like we're out there, 5 to 10 times more than sitting. Biking 10 miles an hour, and Don's going to try to kick me out of here, but not before I'm done. Aerobic dance, walking 4 miles an hour. This is our goal. And in fact, you're burning calories at a greater rate than at 4 miles an hour. This is 4.3 times more than sitting, but this isn't level that you're doing. You're doing hills, and so you're actually closer to 6 to 8 times more than sitting. Okay, that's the good news. Skipping rope, running, tennis, swimming. This is exercise and body fat changes. This is total body fat, and this is intra-abdominal fat. The intra-abdominal fat, you remember, is the one that we really like to get rid of, more so than the total. And this is control of 0, and everything below the level is good. That is, you're getting rid of it. Those are negative numbers. And high activity is you get a % change in body fat, 7% decrease in intra-abdominal fat. This is body weight, fitness level, and risk from all causes. This is fit and unfit, but look at this, normal weight. Did you realize that? Did that sink in? This is normal weight. You think if a person's normal weight, they're fit. Okay, that's your definition of fit. Not so. You can be normal weight and unfit, and your risk is 2.2 times greater risk of dying for all-cause mortality. Now, look at this. If you're overweight and fit, you're better off than normal weight and unfit. And if you're obese and fit, you're better off than normal weight and unfit. Yeah, someone say wow. Someone say wow. I told you it's better to be fit than skinny. It's better to be fit than skinny. Okay, I just heard wow again. That's good. I like wow because wow is, this is wow. Yes.
So when you say fit, define that.
The definition, it would be exercise tolerance. A very easy way for me is to take someone whose BMI is 31 and say, let's go do 3 miles and let's time it. We're going to leave from out there and we're going to see how long it gets back. If you can do it in less than 45 minutes, you're fit. Okay, that's simple, right?
It's almost contradictory being fit and obese. So
See, it's contradictory, and you know why? Because media has fed you information on what defines health. When you see a fit, skinny model, your brain is trained to think that's a perfect person in all regards. They're fit, perfect in all regards, and they're often some of the most unhealthy people.
So we're defining obese as BMI over 30.
Correct?
Okay.
BMI is defined, and overweight is defined between 25 and 30. Morbidly obese is a BMI of greater than 40. Dr. DeRose.
I think the main point you've made very eloquently is the importance of fitness. We have to be careful with any one study. When you look at a study like this, and I'm bringing up some of these points because we're going to get you thinking like this. Are they looking at multiple things in a slide like this?
Yes.
If someone's not fit, and I don't know this particular study just by seeing the reference there, but sometimes fitness is a marker of pre-existing disease. So so that's one issue you have to look at. Are the people not able to do well in a fitness test because they have other conditions in addition? So those are all the things you look at in research studies, and you'll find different studies that suggest different things. But I think you've made a very compelling case with multiple studies that we need to prioritize fitness. How important that is relative to other things, we want to be careful that we don't just,
Right. Well, it's like the buffet we talked about. Right. You can say, well, I'm going to choose fitness because that's the big predictor. And then this is not a buffet. Someone's delivering you this and you get to choose all of them. Just choose all of them. And that's where you'll finally get the promise fulfilled that you'll have none of these diseases. Eat well. Choose healthy foods, choose lower calorie foods, limit refined and snack foods, limit foods high in saturated fat. This is the big one.
How can you limit it when you've got a taste bud that's trained 1 day for French fries and 6 days again for French fries?
You know, it's interesting.
It takes 3 months to get rid of that fat memory.
Yeah. What she's talking about is something very interesting. You can actually retrain the engram, that neural pathway, for taste. You can, but it takes a fair length of time. And what you'll notice is that you start choosing. You're choosing healthy things, and 2 years from now you'll notice, I like healthy things, and I actually don't think I've eaten a French fry for like 3 months. It will just occur to you. If you perseverate on it, you will truly have a much harder time. Focus, what we do is we say, we're not going to take something you like away from you until we give you something that you're going to like better. Because if we're just taking, they go, I can't do this. I'm not going to take anything away from you. I'm going to give you stuff that your taste buds are going to go, wow, they're going to pop alive. This is stunningly good. And they go, sure, I could give up cheesecake if I could eat this. There you go. You replace something far superior, And so you haven't taken anything away, and you haven't perseverated on this, all this negative thinking of, I can't have that, I can't have that, I can't. Well, what's that make you want to do? It makes you want to have it.
Yeah.
That's what it does. So we don't get into there, I can't have it. You can have it, but I'll give you something a lot healthier you like better, but you can have that. And you go, no, I think I won't have that because I like this better. Watch portion size, second helpings. This is huge in weight control. And limit snack foods. I'm going to, meal planning, we can get to this later. This is my pyramid. It's different from what you're typically used to seeing. Dairy is actually here. Oils are here. But whole grains and veggies and fruits are a huge component. Healthy proteins. Eating summary, limit these things, increase these things. It's kind of a no-brainer. Behavior techniques, develop a strong system of social support, avoid cues, change self-defeating thoughts. I'm going to give you a little personal testimony. It was about a year and maybe a year ago. I'd been delivering these messages for a couple of years, and my wife is a registered dietitian. Her BMI, by the way, is about 22. My BMI is not. My BMI was slightly greater than 25, and she knew it because your wife knows everything. And she goes, you know, you need to start, you know, walking the talk. She goes, you need to do what you're telling those people. And I exercise a lot. You know, I make excuses, but I wasn't as healthy as I could be. So I said, well, okay, I'm gonna make some changes. So what I did is it was really quite simple because diets don't work. You know, I know that. And I know the good news of what you should do. So I would always eat a very large breakfast, and around 1:30 in the afternoon, because my work schedule allowed it, I would eat whatever I wanted for lunch. And then I was done. I was done because it turns out that, and the issue of fasting came up, and we're going to talk about fasting sometime later in the program, but it takes, depending on what you're eating, 8 to 12 hours to really digest a meal. And the way that the typical Americans are set up, they're digesting food pretty much 24 hours a day. You never really get a break. But if you were to stop eating food at 1:30 in the afternoon, in fact, your body's very capable of tolerating this, and not only tolerating it, but will actually be healthier in doing so. And I'm not telling you should do this because younger people burn calories at a higher rate. It's a bit different, but you're very capable of doing this. And what it does is it puts your body into a fasting state every single day. At some point in time, you stop digesting food and your whole system shuts down and you go into a fasting state. You will sleep better. I slept better. I was snoring. I snored less. I had reflux. I now didn't have any reflux. I mean, many of the symptoms, and they're minor little irritations, all those symptoms went away. I was exercising perhaps a little more. You know, I was on an elliptical, or I'd walk, 45 minutes to an hour pretty much every day in a span of about, and actually this is kind of interesting because, where's Wati? Oh, there she is. My wife, I was going on the Great Controversy Tour, and Wati and her husband went along with a bunch of pastors from Hawaii. And she said, if you can get down to 180 pounds before you go, I'll pay for the trip. 2 days before the trip, I said, you got to come here. The kids can't because I don't have any clothes on. I was at 178.4. And I wasn't on a diet. And I did this over a period of about 4.5 months, and I lost about 18 pounds. And I just stayed on that, and it's just a lot better. A personal testimony of what you could do in your own life. Should we tell the population in general? I tell that as a personal testimony because you can tell a testimony where a study could not be supported. Because that's my personal experience, and so I do tell them that. I don't tell them they should do that or it could do, but throw it out there as an option of something that should work, because what that does is it reduces the caloric intake. That's what it did. I naturally increased my caloric burn because I was trying to do this. It was a little competitive. I'm type A, so I probably exercised more. But remember, what does exercise do in a significant way to help you lose weight? Not very much. It does change your metabolism, it does increase burn rate, but the way you lose weight is by reducing your caloric intake in a major way. Exercise is important, and you have to add in that, especially with people who are morbidly obese. Exercise is critically important because we found people, you can take them from, you can put them on a 1,200 calorie diet and they'll lose weight for some period of time, say 3 or 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks, and they will plateau and they will truly not lose any weight at 1,200 calories. My wife was in weight control and weight management for 6 years, and she had these morbidly obese patients. Truly, you think, well, they got to be cheating. You know, they got to be eating more than 1,200 calories because they're not losing weight. And the studies have shown your body goes into like a hibernation mode. It goes into preservation mode, and it reduces the basic metabolic rate, and you now only need 1,200 calories so you don't lose any weight. Guess what you have to do to those people? You have to do one of two things or both. Increase their exercise and increase their caloric intake. You actually increase their caloric intake temporarily because it then pulls them back out of that starvation mode, that preservation mode, and so they give that up, and the combination of the eating more calories and exercising more, they then start losing weight again.
I have a quick question.
Quick question. We're done with this, by the way. I guess we don't get a quiz, but that's okay, we were done.
I was looking at the BMI thing last night, and I was kind of like, because I've always, my BMI has been off the scale, but I'm not sure if, like, how you would figure that out for bone density and everything like that, because I would probably be considered morbidly obese for my height and, like, you know, age, but it, like, I don't really understand it, because I never have looked like I weigh as much as I do.
Okay, I'll give a quick answer to the BMI being, doesn't seem to really fit. Percent body fat is the very most accurate, and the most accurate is done, they weigh you underwater, they calculate your residual volume of your lungs, and they actually can calculate your percent body fat. And I'm sure there's a percent body fat meter, and you may have, you know, that could be more accurate in those people where BMIs don't seem to be exactly right on.
Body bars, it comes down to Auburn with his friend, I mean, it's Foster, I believe, that carries it around for North
Okay.
Division.
Which one? Is it the one that you hold in front of you?
He puts the little,
Okay.
yeah, he puts that. I know, I did it.
Yeah, but you might want to consider that. What would you recommend, Dr. DeRose?
No, I mean, what you're saying is exactly right. I mean, BMI is very effective on a population-wide level. But if you take, for example, a football team, I mean, some of these guys are very fit. I mean, their BMIs, they would be morbidly obese. I mean, some of them are, too. I'm just saying, yeah, so it's a bigger picture, and body fat is another excellent indicator. And there's all kinds of things. You can do CTs,
Yeah.
look at intra-abdominal fat, but practically speaking, on a population level, we look at BMI. I think that's also what your fitness measurements are reflecting. Because if you're more fit, even though you're quote obese,
Right. It's picking up some of those people because, you know, they could have a whole lot of muscle mass and their percent body fat could be like 20%, but they look bad on the BMI chart.
My genetic muscle mass is already heavy because my dad had a lot of muscle. And my calves
Well,
are huge.
so you just do percent body fat, and that would be a much better indicator for your body type rather than BMI. BMI is just, you know,
right.
ballpark.
Okay.
Okay? Any other questions? I will see you guys tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Is that right, Don? And the next morning at 9 o'clock?
Unless you want to come and exercise.
I did this morning, but I didn't see anybody out there because I must have got there late. I started walking at 10 to 7, and I did not see one other person.
6:30 is when we're starting.
Okay. I can. Where do you leave from?
The entrance.
Right at the entrance, just like we did yesterday. Well, I can be here at 6:30. I was here at 10 to 7, and I didn't see anybody. Okay.
They're early,